This is the Television Enthusiast Podcast, The Weekly Set.
Episode 15, recorded May 14th, 2015. Hi, and welcome to the TV Enthusiast Podcast, The Weekly Set. Today we are going to be talking about the summer schedule, what the kind of shows that are coming up that seem to be of interest to us or could be of interest to our demographic of readers. So, if you're listening to this, and hopefully these shows are what are relevant to you. Now, normally I'd look at the summer schedule as just starting in June and then going through for 3 months, but I'm going to be starting with some shows that are going as early as May 21st, just because there's some kind of late additions that didn't make our last schedule. So yeah, we'll get started with that. Joining me today are Will.
Hello.
And Kat.
Hi.
And I am your host, Tyson. So, first up on our list here, we have Thursday, May 21st. We have Between on Netflix, and this is a Canadian series. I believe it's already aired there, and it's coming everywhere else through Netflix. It was on TV in Canada, but everywhere else on Netflix. So we're getting this. This is kind of have either of you ever seen the series Jeremiah that used to be, I think, on Showtime?
Nope.
No.
It's kind of reminiscent of that, but it seems more centered on a single area. And Jeremiah, I remember, it was everybody above the age of, that's gone through puberty, basically, I think, died. And then everyone who hadn't yet was immune or something. And so the plot for this series, Between, is that there's this small town called Pretty Lake, that in this small town, everybody over the age of 21 dies. There's a mysterious illness and everyone just kind of dies off, and the town's kind of quarantined because, it thankfully didn't spread outside of the town and they don't want it to. So they're just trying to kind of figure out what's going on with that. Is there any interest on either end? Did either of you end up watching the trailer for it?
I did.
Look,
I don't know. It feels kind of dystopic to me, which is fine, but it's not something that generally appeals to me.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, it's not a brand of genre or science fiction that generally appeals to me. But then viruses really aren't my favorite plot point. So
right.
There've been a lot of virus storylines in the last couple of years. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. It's Netflix, so it's one of those cases where you can give it an episode, and if you're kind of like, I don't know, maybe I'll watch it, maybe I won't, well, then you just grab the next episode right away.
Right. I'll probably check it out just because it's Netflix, and Netflix is like, you can just check it out at your leisure. Unlike, with like network or cable shows, which, you have to actually catch it or something. So I don't have to worry about catching it, so I can say, if I'm bored, I can say, well, I'll see what this is about. But, I mean, it's not something that I'm excited about.
Yeah.
It looks okay. I mean, it doesn't look bad or anything. It's just not much interest.
I feel about the same. So, let's move on then. Thursday, May 28th, exactly 1 week later, Aquarius on NBC. So we got, Fox Mulder versus Charles Manson. Did you guys watch the trailer, or?
I didn't get a chance to watch that trailer, unfortunately.
I did.
I think the presence of David Duchovny does kind of make me leery, just because unfortunately I don't have the perspective on the actor, even though I really liked the X-Files.
David Duchovny is very much David Duchovny in this trailer.
David Duchovny as David Duchovny in David Duchovny. That show.
He's basically, I don't know. I mean, he's a great lead. I mean, just watching the trailer, they could just make the show about him, and yeah, he's a great lead, so it's got that going for it. It looks good. Again, not something I'm terribly excited about, but it doesn't look bad at all.
We've been getting a lot of these kind of like, semi-modern period piece type shows where they kind of are playing on kind of nostalgic ideas from the 60s, and
right.
From like kind of this trailer, you can really tell that that's what they're going to go for. We're going to end up with a lot of, trippy 60s psychedelic rock music montages, I'm sure.
My problem with that is I just don't have any nostalgia for the 60s. And I'm like, it's really a decade I don't care about at all. And and I'm like, okay.
I think the thing that makes me the most nervous is that this is a network show about Charles Manson. And even though network's getting better and, you have stuff like Hannibal, which is also on NBC, which is amazing, it just instantly makes me a little bit kind of, sketchy on the topic, because I think if this was like a HBO miniseries about the investigation into like Charles Manson or something, I'd be like, okay, this will probably be good, like a 6-hour.
Oh, like if it was like a documentary or something?
No. If it was a series, but it was like a miniseries,
gotcha,
like where they had like 3 2-hour movie kind of things, like they've done before.
Right.
I'd be kind of like, yeah, this might be interesting, but
just make it a season of True Detective.
Yeah, something like that,
Yeah.
But the idea that this is a series that's probably meant to go on more than like one season kind of thing, it makes me kind of like, what are they going to do to stretch this out,
Yeah, that's
What
true.
are they going to do to make it more network friendly? Who are they going to pair up with, David Duchovny as his will he won't he relationship,
Oh, gosh,
what are they going to do,
no.
cause
Please no.
how are they going to fit it, shove in all the kind of network TV tropes, I'm always worried about that, like sometimes it isn't necessarily like that. I mean, like I said, Hannibal's brilliant. It doesn't, succumb to that, but
right.
I'm still nervous about it. I'm definitely going to watch it though.
Yeah.
At least the first episode. Pretty much everything on this list, I'm going to at least watch the first episode.
At least watch the first episode. Yeah, I'll probably check it out. I mean, it looks decent enough.
Kat?
I doubt it. Unfortunately, there's nothing about the cast or the premise that sounds appealing to me. Serial killer, yay! Police procedural, yay!
1960s.
Ego, yay!
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it has to be really well done and interesting. I mean, I've watched like too many, police procedurals, especially like full seasons of Criminal Minds and stuff, to where that it's just not interesting or appealing unless they do something different with it.
Yeah, I think network TV in particular, really burned out pretty much most audiences on the police procedural genre.
Yeah, exactly.
Completely. Can I just say, for all the people complaining about how there are tons of superhero shows on TV, I'm sorry, but superhero television is nowhere near as oversaturated as police procedurals have been for like the past 30 years.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there was a point when we had 3 Law and Orders on at the same time. Actually 4, because we had like that Law and Order Los Angeles too.
Yep, and then like
CSI, NCIS.
Yeah, like 3 or 4.
Everything on CBS.
God. And then it seems like even interesting shows, whenever a new one starts up, they try to like cram a police procedural in some area.
Like Gotham.
Gotham or Sleepy Hollow or
yeah.
It's like, well, we need to ground this. Let's make it a police procedural.
In Gotham's defense, I knew pretty much from inception that it was going to be a police procedural set in like Gotham City. That was the entire premise of the show. But yeah,
I don't have a problem with police dramas and stuff. It's just the procedural, the case of the week kind of thing that gets so old.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, that's definitely my problem with it. Every story is exactly the same and everything is self-contained and nothing has like any emotional repercussions whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So it's just basically watching the same thing over and over again. It holds no interest for me.
So let's move on then. Sunday, May 31st. This is the last of the ones that I'm kind of attaching on to our summer preview that aren't necessarily directly part of it. Halt and Catch Fire Season 2. Now, did either of you watch the first season of Halt and Catch Fire?
No.
I think you might like it, Kat. It has some really strong female characters, and it really develops them well.
It's about computer techie developers, right?
It's like early 80s, kind of around the era of like the Apple II, kind of, around that time frame. And it's about a company trying to make a computer. And it's kind of about the business of that and trying to, move forward with that and just kind of the differing personalities. And you have like this main character that's kind of he's just kind of a mess, and he's he'll just lie, and even to his own people, and just do kind of things, and it's kind of everything has repercussions on that, and it's kind of he's like this Steve Jobs-esque charismatic kind of leader that, you know, doesn't necessarily care about other people, but makes them think he does, kind of, you know? And yeah, so it's got a lot of interesting characters, and the kind of path the story takes is really interesting, so.
Okay.
The second season looks really good. First season, I believe, is on Netflix if anybody wants to check that out, but we'll move on. I think it looks good. I'm excited about the second season. Tuesday, June 2nd, Royal Pains comes back. Do any of you watch Royal Pains?
No.
No, but I think my sister does. I think she likes that.
This is one I feel like has kind of gone on too long. I'm actually kind of hoping it's almost over. I think it got picked up for an 8th season, though, unfortunately, already through. It's one of those... I actually kind of enjoy the show, but it's like, it's just gone on too far. Sometimes, not even sometimes, almost all the time, when you get to like season 7, you're like kind of long in the tooth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely.
So, I'm kind of hoping this comes to an end pretty quickly, but it's one of the last holdouts of, that era of TV on USA that had stuff like, Burn Notice, you know, White Collar, Monk, Psych, yeah, that kind of era of programming. This is kind of like the last one,
yeah,
or one of the last ones.
Programming there for a while was like, it was very like kind of different and quirky. It had its own like sort of flavor to it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of interesting. The way
Royal Pains is like the last one really of that era. Suits is kind of, you know, good, kind of fits in a little bit there too.
Right.
But it's kind of started moving into that more like, ooh, kind of, I don't know about this character type, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Dramas that kind of became like, USA's new bread and butter. So, it's kind of interesting to see how this is still kind of hanging around past, you know, White Collar and past Burn Notice and all these other shows that, you know. But yeah, it's okay. I'm hoping it finishes on its 8th season since it's already picked up for that. But, it looks like...
It's already got an 8th season?
Yeah.
Wow.
7th season is about to come out. 8th season's already ordered.
Wow.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It'll be okay. It's not like it's bad. It's just that it's kind of gone on too long. So, Thursday, June 4th. Now, this is a day I know that Will and I will both be celebrating dearly. And Ed over at Film Enthusiast will as well. Kat's not too much into it. She's not into the gore and
That's okay. I totally understand and respect that you're legitimately excited for this. I get that.
So, the show we're talking about, of course, is Hannibal.
It's, of course,
I think
Bates Motel.
It's Hannibal, which is coming back to NBC on June 4th for its 3rd season. I never thought Brian Fuller would get a 3rd season of television.
I still can't believe this is happening. A
Yeah.
Brian Fuller show in its 3rd season? Is this an alternate universe?
Yeah.
Good times. Enjoy the good times.
Yes, it was a good time. But yes.
So, yeah, I'm so excited, for Hannibal to come back. This is, you know, I'd say easily my favorite show last year, even topping Game of Thrones for me.
And
wow.
Is it a stretch to say that just this trailer here is better than the majority of all TV that was on this season?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's good.
So, tell us how you really feel, Will. You don't really like this show, do you?
No, I hate it. Ugh. Not watching this.
So good. Can't wait. So an exciting thing here is that the food theme for the episode titles this season is Italian.
Oh,
So
okay.
first season, all of them were French dishes for the
makes
names
sense,
of the
'cause
episodes.
they're like hiding out in Italy now or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The second season, they were all Japanese dishes.
Yep.
And now it's all Italian dishes.
That's cool. I like that.
They're running out of the kind of high, like really high respected cuisine kind of, I mean, what's probably maybe Spanish next, and then, then where are they gonna go? I mean,
this season it's all gonna be McDonald's menu items.
yeah. Chicken McNugget is gonna be the name of an episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I'm so excited for this. This, I believe, is, you know, of everything on the list, this is the king for me.
Yes.
On here. So excited for this to come back. Just can't express that enough. But there isn't much else to say. So we'll move on. We'll just say we're super excited for Hannibal.
Yes.
Maybe we'll do some kind of a video thing, Will, like we're doing with Game of Thrones
Yeah,
now.
that'd be cool. We can do video reviews for Hannibal.
Maybe we could do something where we each, like, make a meal, and we'll talk while eating a meal together.
All right.
Oh, that's disgusting. Ew, ew, ew. I can't even eat while I'm watching iZombie because she keeps eating brains.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. That's true. You won't be able to eat watching Hannibal, that's for sure.
Yeah. You won't be able to ever watch Mads Mikkelsen eat food again in anything. So, Friday, June 5th, we have a new Netflix series. Now, Kat, you wrote an article, not too long ago about Jupiter Ascending and how it should have been a TV show.
Yeah.
Well, here we go. Sense8, a new TV show from the creators of The Matrix, Andy and Lana Wachowski.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm glad to see. I think, I think they're both pretty creative people. And I kind of feel like these days that those energies are better directed to television anyway. So I'm glad to see them moving to television. I think that's a great idea.
So they're creating this alongside, J. Michael Straczynski, who's, Babylon 5, if you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so a lot of people have a lot of hope in that. A lot of people are kind of iffy on the Wachowskis now. They're kind of one of those people like M. Night Shyamalan where, you know, everyone loved them and now they're like unsure of them.
You know? Had like a lot of like bombs. You know, I mean,
yeah.
Everybody loved the first Matrix and then like the second, third Matrix movies were not as good or not what people were expecting. And then I don't think they've had anything that resonated since. You know, they've done like Speed Racer. Not a lot of people, although I've heard people who absolutely love that movie, but it wasn't a huge hit critically. And then of course we got Jupiter Ascending, which again got mixed reviews.
Got way worse reviews than it deserved. Like, I didn't think it was great, but I definitely thought it got more negativity than it deserved.
Right.
I think there's they have a stigma attached to them because of The Matrix. And because, like, everyone's just kind of waiting for them to one-up that, and they've been so disappointed with everything else that I think people go in to review something like Jupiter Ascending, and they're like, if this isn't The Matrix, then it's horrible.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
That said, I think Sense8 looks really good. The trailer did a good job getting me interested in it. When I read the premise, when I read it on paper, I thought, well, this sounds stupid and pretentious. Like everything the Wachowskis do has like this sort of pretentiousness to it. That's pretty off-putting, to be honest. And I thought, you know, Sense8 sounds like the same thing. In fact, it probably is going to be pretentious as hell. But But, I mean, the trailer did a good job getting me interested, and it's on Netflix, so I think I'm definitely going to check it out.
Hey, if nothing else, Saeed.
Yeah, Saeed, yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah, I really like that actor, too, so that helps.
Yeah, it's filmed in 8 countries, 9 cities across the world. That's really exciting. Ever since Game of Thrones now, you get these shows that are filming in multiple countries around the world and stuff. But wow, 8 countries around the world, that's pretty hefty. So
yeah, definitely.
It's cool that Netflix is experimenting with this kind of stuff.
It's another example. Netflix isn't afraid to throw a big budget at something, you know. I mean, it's kind of amazing the way Netflix is throwing their money around like this, you know. I don't think a typical network would fund a show like this with a completely unknown, unproven property to film it in
I don't know if it would have worked on anything else other than Netflix, because the way they're kind of setting this up, it feels like it's going to be one of those shows that you watch the first episode and you're going to be kind of like, I don't know. It's going to be one of those where you have to watch quite a few for everything to start to fall into place, you know?
Right.
And I don't know if anybody else would have taken that gamble but Netflix, because Netflix knows, well, we're dropping it all at once.
Right.
So people can watch it, and if they're unsure, they can go, oh, well, I'll check out another one, and they can do it right away instead of waiting a week and having a week to decide that, no, I'll just drop it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely see it as another example of Netflix taking risks that nobody else would necessarily be willing to take. And I think that's one of the cool things about Netflix getting into original programming. For sure.
Yeah, definitely. And they're putting out stuff just constantly.
Oh, yes.
So, and that's going to lead us to our next one, 1 week later, on June 12th, 2015, Orange is the New Black Season 3. So 1 week later, and they're launching a whole other series on Netflix. It's crazy, the speed that Netflix is putting stuff out.
Yeah, I mean, going over this list, this is the third Netflix series that we've gone over.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. They're all over the place. They're making big investments on it. Now, Orange is the New Black is probably Netflix's biggest hit. I don't know, Daredevil might have passed that already. Daredevil's gotten so much buzz, but Orange is the New Black was like even more than House of Cards, which was their, the one that everybody was expecting to be their huge hit. Orange is the New Black kind of came out and became like a cultural phenomenon. People were just talking about it left and right. It brought in a lot of subscribers, brought in like a whole new audience to this kind of stuff. It was really interesting to watch that happen, with everybody placing their bets on House of Cards, and then Orange is the New Black just coming out of nowhere.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, actually.
Yeah, seriously.
So do any of you, do either of you watch Orange is the New Black?
I haven't. I mean, I've known people have recommended it to me, but I still haven't watched it.
I literally got maybe 2 minutes into the pilot episode in which two of the characters were having extensive conversations about their boobs, and I was just like, this show is definitely it's definitely telling you what it's going to be up front, and I found that really off-putting. So I don't know that I'll go back and try it. Maybe at some point in the future when I don't have 20 other shows on my list to try.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I've heard that it's very good, and I have no doubt of that. I don't really care for nudity in general, so.
It does fair. The Lost trick in that, what Lost did, is it brought out so many characters up front right away, and it brought them in as kind of like cliches, and then it kind of like gave you more depth to understand them as something beyond that, And
sure.
Orange is the New Black does the same thing. It comes off very cartoonish when it starts. The characters are very like, ooh, this is the crazy one, and this is the, big like Russian lady, and this is the, everything kind of like fits into these like very like common trope kind of ideas, and then they develop, and you get to know them as more than just this general idea of a character or a general trope. And it makes heavy use of flashback mechanics in a very similar way to Lost 2, where an episode will have a focus on a character, and throughout the episode you'll get flashbacks specific to that character. So yeah, it's structurally, it has a lot of similarities to Lost in that way. I mean, obviously the show's nothing like Lost. Doesn't take place on an island, and they're all trapped somewhere, but it's a little bit different.
But you can pick up on a show's general ideas without necessarily just revamping the entire show. Because a lot of shows have grown out of like Twin Peaks and X-Files and have nothing to do with like small town murders and alien encounters and stuff like that. So I mean, there's a lot. So I like that idea because a lot of shows have tried to pick up on the flashback structure, and very few have succeeded.
Yeah, Orange is the New Black definitely does a great job of it. And I think the way they do it is like the way Lost did it, is it gives you characters that with very little depth up front that are just kind of like cool little tropes, and then expands upon that and changes kind of your viewpoint of it, which I think is the way to do something like that. So, it's good. Enjoy it. This is a big day for Friday, June 12th, besides Orange is the New Black. I think there's 3 other shows that we have on our list here. So moving down the list, the new season of Defiance. Do either of you watch Defiance?
No.
No.
So Defiance is actually real science fiction on Sci-Fi. It's kind of
Hallelujah.
It was the only one for a while now, or one of the only ones.
Yeah.
It's got a weird tie-in to, there's a MMORPG called Defiance as well. that ties into it. And so they have actually storylines that cross between the game and the show and stuff. So I don't actually play the game. I watch the show. It's okay. It's cool because there's all sorts of alien races, that have different characteristics, You have this one that's almost like elf-like or something, and there's...
I do like that because everyone's been shying away from space opera ever since Star Trek. The franchise kind of died down, and I miss solid space opera with lots of different alien races.
Oh my god, I miss
Well, you'll be
that
happy
so
as we go down this list, because there's a lot of stuff that takes place in space.
That's what I
I
said.
saw that. I'm so happy to see sci-fi is finally going back to being sci-fi again.
Oh
Yeah.
I know, right? It's amazing.
So moving on from Defiance here, again another sci-fi show, Dark Matter. Now this looks really good to me.
Yeah, this looked good. I'm on board with this.
For sure.
This is from some Stargate writers are running the show.
I loved Stargate back in the day, so...
Yeah, I mean, looks very different it's tonally from Stargate.
Yeah.
It's much darker, than, Stargate always kind of had like a lighter, fun tone to it. But, it looks good. I mean, if anything, I guess you could compare it maybe to the last Stargate series, Stargate Universe. Or was it Universe? What was the last Stargate
Universe?
series?
I don't even watch Stargate, and I know that for some reason.
I'm trying to remember what the last one was. There was a last one that was darker.
The last one was Universe.
Yeah, okay. So, I guess it could, be comparable maybe to Universe, because Universe had like a darker tone to it as well. But yeah, it just looks really interesting. You got a crew of amnesiacs on the ship. They're heading towards some mining colony. They don't know who they are, but there's a cache of weapons, and...
I think it's cool that it's like the Space Odyssey, but has like the mystery element to it too.
Yeah.
So like there's this whole mystery about who these people are, why are they on the ship? Why is all this happening? And hopefully as the show goes on, those will get answers in a satisfying manner, to explain
and we get some action scenes going on in this too that look really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my thoughts. I think if they can give satisfying revelations about all the mysteries, then I think it could be a lot of fun.
I think so too. So I'm looking forward to it. We need more space on TV, and this looks really good.
Amen.
Yes.
So from space, let's go on to Thursday, June 13th, where we get some alternate history, which I am a big fan of alternate history stories.
Me too.
So it's cool whenever this kind of stuff happens. This is based on a book. This is a mini-series coming to BBC America called Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell.
I am not familiar with the book, but this looks really cool. I saw this, I was like, awesome.
I started reading the book. I kind of lost interest in
Okay.
it just kind of has to do with the pacing of it, but it's one of those things where I really liked the idea. I just didn't like the way it was presented in the book so much.
I heard a lot of people
I'm looking
calling,
forward to what it's going to be like in
a
the
masterpiece or something.
Yeah. It's I liked the story. I liked where it was going and stuff.
Right.
It's just like something about the way it paced in the book just didn't sit well with me. It's one of those things where I always thought, like, if it was made into a movie or something, this would be really interesting and I'd want to see it. So, as a mini-series, it's the exact same thing. I want to see this.
I want to see this too. I mean, I knew nothing about the story, or anything about it, but as soon as I watched the trailer, it just, this looks awesome. I'm totally down for this. You see the last...
Did you watch the trailer, Kat?
I did. Alternate histories, they are not my thing, so I'm afraid it didn't really appeal to me.
Okay.
We're getting a few alternate histories.
I've heard the book is really good. My sister loves the book.
It has magic, though. It has, like, sand horses coming out of the... That was, like, a really cool shot.
But in general, especially in books, I like my fantasy to be in a removed world that has nothing to do with ours, like traditional Lord of the Rings stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm not really...
Oh, okay.
But that's cool. Like, I know that the book is supposed to be really good, so...
We are getting a lot of alternate history stuff coming up. I mean, we did a podcast not too long ago about the Amazon pilot season, where we had both seen the pilot for Man in the High Castle. which is another alternate history thing. So it's another one of those kind of weird genres that it was always kind of like a fringe genre that you didn't really see much of,
right.
you know?
Right, yeah, fringe genre. I mean, I love alternate history. I love alternate realities, seeing all the possibilities, all the what ifs. What if this, or what if that, what would change? What would be different?
What if the Statue of Liberty was bronze?
Yes! How different the world would be.
That's just my little fringe reference.
Fringe? Oh man, that was a show. I had frustrations with that show, but I won't hijack this podcast.
Okay. So, Tuesday, June 16th, Tyrant comes back for its second season. Gonna go out on a limb and say that neither of you have seen this one.
You would be correct.
It's an okay show. I think the most interesting thing about, Tyrant is how, like, at least in premise, not necessarily in the course it's gone, it very closely resembles the life of, the current Syrian president, Bashar al-Assad. Who is like a Western educated, has a Western wife, in Tyrant it's an American wife, and in real life, it's a British wife, who ends up kind of becoming this horrible tyrant, and, it's interesting that they're paralleling this so closely, at least in premise, with that. The story, I don't know, it's kinda, I think I'm getting kinda burnt out on, the evils of the Middle East type stuff.
Right?
Right, yeah, I think so.
Enough with Homeland and, all these other ones. It's getting a bit much.
Yeah, that's...
Getting kinda weary of the setting.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd really like to see something that kind of paints, the Middle East in like a kind of more, whimsical light, like I've talked before, I think, I remember my sister and I talked about, that we'd love to see something like, an Arabian Nights, story or something like a TV show, that would be awesome. Where you get this kind of like this whole other kind of perspective on that region, that's more kind of whimsical and fun and adventurous than all about like, oh, it's more terrorist and religious,
That would be cool. That would require the U.S. to stop being terrified of the Middle East, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Maybe it could be an original show to come out of the Middle East.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, right?
There you go.
Right? Then we could get a differing perspective on them. Real quick, there's a really great Daily Show segment a few years ago where they had one of their correspondents go into Iran and interview a bunch of people about Americans. And it was this great way of showing how similar to us the Iranians are, and how they actually, a lot of them don't hate Americans. I thought it was a refreshing perspective.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
So let's move on from that because it's not that interesting of a show. But let's move on to another interesting show, another sci-fi and space show that looks really good. On June 19th, we have Killjoys.
Yep.
Which just has a great title up front.
Yeah, right. This looks like a lot of fun. It looks like it looks very lighthearted. From the trailer, it's definitely not taking itself too seriously. It's got a lot of action. Obviously, it's set in space. I mean, it looks like a fun show. Definitely gotta check this out.
And who doesn't love intergalactic bounty hunters?
Oh yes,
right?
definitely.
Right?
Although, I did get a little confused reading your write-up, because at first I read it as, like, the character's name were Samus and Boba. I was like...
Me too. I was like, wait, how common of a name is Samus?
I know!
Oh!
Just my little joke at the end. For anyone who doesn't know, I'll explain the joke there by ruining it forever, is that, Samus Aran is the intergalactic bounty hunter in the Metroid series, and Boba, of course, is Boba Fett from Star Wars. That was just my little reference.
I was going to face palm for real if the characters in the show's names were those.
Oh gosh.
No, see, what would be worse if one of the characters' last name was Killjoy?
Oh yeah, that'd be...
I'm John Killjoy.
John Killjoy.
This is my crew, the Killjoys.
I come from a long line of killjoys.
Then you have like the witty character, you know, the character, the snarky one that's in the background goes, "Tell me about it."
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Sunday, June 21st, True Detective, HBO. Now I know that you watched this, Will. I don't think you watched this, did you, Kat?
No.
I watched
so
the first season.
True Detective, each season is its own thing in its entirety. It's you know, it's its own story. Do you have any interest in watching either the first season or this new season of True Detective?
Probably not. I think because, well, I think that's a cool idea. I have no problem with people making that. I like to get into a show where I can invest in the same set of characters for like 5 to 7 seasons, you know? Like starting over with a new cast and with a shorter run of episodes doesn't appeal to me as much.
I see
so,
it like...
But I mean, it's cool. I've heard it get tons of praise, so that's great.
I see it as like kind of a movie, almost, you know? I mean, it's like a longer film, the way I see it. So like, there's no investment like beyond the current season. So if I love season 1, that's great. That was a great story. If season 2 sucks, it
doesn't take away from season 1.
Doesn't take away from season 1. The characters aren't, you know, that story is still there.
The thing I think is interesting about these anthology shows, and you know, another one, of course, would be American Horror Story. Then there's another. They're making like they have a show called American Crime. That's not a seasonal anthology, I believe, but they're having another one called American Crime Story. That's going to be an anthology. It's from the same guy who does American Horror Story. And I think the thing I find interesting about these kind of stories is that they're very concise. You know, they got a clear beginning, middle, and end.
Right.
And they can foreshadow direct events that are going to happen at the end right at the beginning because they know exactly where they're going.
Right.
So there's no like
which you can't do.
No spacing like you would on a TV show.
Right.
There's no kind of like making it up as it goes along. It's all kind of concise, and that makes it really interesting, you know. And sometimes that works out really well. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
American Horror Story kind of encapsulates that all by itself, where like the first season worked really well. Third season worked pretty well. You know, the other seasons, not so much.
Yeah. Yeah, American Horror Story has been kind of, you know, spotty in quality, really.
But the first season's like a great example because there's just this idea of like, even more so than in something like Game of Thrones, of like anybody could die at any moment because this is a one season run.
Oh, yeah, because...
And so, yeah.
None of these characters are coming back for another season, so there was no guarantee anybody was safe. And so that the suspense was held, you know.
Yeah. And that's one of the kind of cool things about something like this. So, and True Detective is probably the best of the anthologies we've gotten so far as this goes.
Oh, yeah.
So the first season was really good. I think what people really attached to is Matthew McConaughey's character and his nihilistic tendencies.
Well, yeah, him and his nihilism, and yeah, I think a lot of people got attached to that.
His weird quotes like "time is a flat circle" and
yeah. There was like a lot of weird theories too surrounding that, like that whole thing was going to come into play at some point or something. Like,
well, there's a big tie-in to the first season to a really old book that I think it's like 1800s or something called The King in Yellow.
Yeah.
And they even reference directly the Yellow King in True Detective.
Yeah.
And
I remember the reference.
That book is considered a huge inspiration for kind of some of the darker writers in the 20th century, like H.P. Lovecraft. So it's interesting how that all tied in, and you kind of get that sensibility. There always feels like there's something kind of seething beneath the surface, which is really what was kind of interesting about that show.
Definitely. That said, I don't think season 2 looks as good as season 1 did. I'm cautiously optimistic for this, but
yeah,
but
I feel pretty much the same way. It doesn't
feel as strong, you know.
Yeah, we'll have to see where it goes. That'll be an interesting one to talk about once it's come up, to see kind of like exactly what we feel about it once we've seen it.
Definitely.
So on the same day as that, of course, HBO always pairs, or doesn't always, but tends to pair 2 half-hour shows directly after their hour-long. So we have The Brink coming up. Does that look interesting to any of you?
It does. I mean, it looked funny to me when I watched the trailer. Yeah, it looks good.
It does seem to have a very... it seems to already have well captured its tone.
Yeah.
And it looks very risque, which, you know, I admire. Like, it's being pretty open about some offensiveness when it comes to the Middle East and politics. So, it could be entertaining.
We had just talked about the Middle East and kind of the being burnt out on that kind of thing. But this is like a dark comedy. So it's like it's almost like what you need when you start to get burnt out on something like that.
Right,
you know?
Right. This is more of a humorous take on international politics. And so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely check it out. I don't know how much it's grabbed me from just the trailer, but I like the idea of like this dark comedy kind of, you know, parroting our current problems.
Yeah.
So it gives you a chance to kind of laugh about the things that otherwise just make you cry or feel unwhole inside.
Right, definitely.
So, the other half-hour show that they're debuting, HBO's debuting after, True Detective is Ballers, which is, it looks kind of like an Entourage-esque kind of show, which automatically makes me kind of lose most of my interest.
Yeah, boring. Jeez.
I think the one thing that's really gonna get it attention and drive is, you know, its star. It has Dwayne The Rock Johnson in it.
Yeah. He's a very charismatic guy. But yeah, the subject matter just does not interest. I do not care about sports. I do not care about rich athletes, nor do I care about the lives of rich athletes.
Yeah.
Amen. Oh, I'm so with you there. Yeah. Also, football. The only way anyone has ever made football appealing to me was Friday Night Lights, and that was an exception. Like, I don't think it's going to happen again.
Right.
Have you seen the Amy Schumer parody of Friday Night Lights?
No.
Oh my God, I did.
You have to look that up. It's funny. Okay. She plays like the wife of the coach or something. And, every single time it cuts back to her, like, her wine glass is bigger and bigger.
Until, like
it starts out, she just has, like, a glass of wine and...
the size of her, and she's, like, leaning on it.
It's really funny, but yeah, it kind of parodies the kind of, you know, what people, you know, that aren't into sports think about football, basically, with Friday Night Lights. It's really funny. But, okay, let's move on here. We got The Last Ship coming to TNT, its second season. Another show about a virus. Did either of you watch the first season of The Last Ship or catch anything about it?
No, isn't it? It's produced by Michael Bay, isn't it? No.
I think it actually
Not Michael
is.
Bay,
or Jerry Bruckheimer or something.
Jerry Bruckheimer, thank you. Yeah, I kind of hear that and go, even though I do like Eric Dane, and I know Adam Baldwin is on it as well.
Yeah.
I think Jerry Bruckheimer tells me all I need.
How about you, Will? Did you see or hear anything about this?
No, I didn't. I knew nothing about this show until tonight, so I was like, okay, never even heard of it.
It's an okay show. It's, I don't know. It's something that I'll watch and probably enjoy, actually, but I almost felt mixed on if it should even go on the list, and I just said, I'll just put it on anyways. Now, this next one here, I'm actually really excited because I just got the code for, the pilot, from our, press contact at USA.
Oh, cool.
So I have the screener for it. I might watch that tonight, when I need to take a break from editing
lucky you.
the podcast. But, this actually looks really good to me. It's Mr. Robot on USA, hacker drama, June 24th, in case I missed that part there. And yeah, it's, I like that they're doing this kind of idea of like this hacker. He's kind of working in a security job, where, you know, security firms will hire hackers to kind of make sure that something doesn't get hacked, basically.
Right.
And he basically gets contacted by another hacker who's played by Christian Slater, who's the titular character of Mr. Robot. And, they basically are hatching a plan or something to basically destroy the 1% or the 1% of the 1% and just completely like redistribute wealth or something. And it's like hacks. So it looks really interesting to me. It looks like USA's starting to move. You know, if you look at some of the stuff they're greenlighting now, it seems to be going more into the high concept direction. They got a show with Carlton Cuse and Sawyer from Lost called Colony that they've greenlit that's coming up. That's like about a space colony, or not space colony. It's a colony on Earth, I think, that's been taken over by aliens or something. So they're starting to get into higher concept stuff. So it's like the new era of USA. They had their character driven era, then they had their like questionable character era, and now they're kind of getting into like higher concept.
Okay. Huh.
So I'm excited about what they're going to do with this. And what's really interesting is that though this premieres on June 24th, USA is really kind of embracing the idea of, kind of approaching the release of it, or at least the initial release, the pilot in the way the digital era handles this kind of stuff. And they're going to be releasing almost a month before this comes out. On May 27th, they're going to be releasing the pilot episode on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, PlayStation, Xbox, pretty much everything. Anywhere you can get a digital copy of something, it'll be available through digital or streaming. So that's going to be on May 27th that's available. It's available to me now. So I'm excited about that, on a personal note, but also I like hacker stories when they're done right. It looks like this might be done right. I'm hopeful. Christian Slater's actually been involved in a few kind of interesting TV projects that didn't really pan out that well. He had a show on Fox called Breaking In, I believe it was called, that was kind of similarly themed in that he was running a security firm that gets hired to basically test the vulnerabilities of like businesses.
Oh, okay.
And so he had like a team of hackers and stuff beneath him, and it was a really funny show.
That sounds like Sneakers, the movie Sneakers.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but much funnier. Yeah, it had what was it? Who was really great in it was, the actor who played Lex Luthor on Smallville.
Oh, yeah.
Michael Rosenbaum.
And Michael Rosenbaum, yeah, he was hilarious in that show. So great. He had a great, like, Goonies parody with him. It was really good. Very pop culture heavy. Christian Slater is actually, like, a huge Star Trek fan. He actually owns, like, a captain's chair.
Oh, really?
You know? And they brought that on the set for Breaking In. So that was, like, his chair at his desk was, like, a captain's chair.
That's cool.
So yeah, he's been involved in a lot of kind of interesting stuff that didn't really survive. I'm hoping this does. It looks really good. Did either of you see the trailer for this?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully you guys get a chance to watch it, because it'll be something fun to kind of talk about, and we might be able to get some good coverage on this one.
All right, Mr. Robot. I'll keep it in mind.
Yeah, check the trailer out after we're done here. So, that same night, I'm kind of sad that Lee isn't here, because I know she's a big fan of this show. Suits is coming back. This is what I said. This is the show that kind of borders the last two kind of generations of USA content. It kind of has that kind of, character-driven kind of quirkiness to it, but at the same time, it's more like morally questionable territory.
Right.
And this is like kind of like the first one that kind of kicked off USA's, they're not what they're going into now, but what they had before, the kind of thing that I actually don't like too much on USA. But this is like the one show I think that kind of worked because it still was a little bit quirky enough. Do either of you watch Suits or know anything about it?
I haven't.
I know
think I
next to
watched
nothing about it.
pilot episode, and that was it. So
It's
I know the premise.
It suffers just from the fact that, we have way too many legal procedurals.
Yeah.
It's like after police procedurals, then you go into legal procedurals.
And then you get Law and Order, which combines the two. So
yeah, the procedural crossover,
right?
In the procedural extended universe.
The procedural extended universe. Oh, and then you got like the medical dramas too. So
oh god,
and
yeah.
I think like NBC is like doing something now where they got Chicago Fire and Chicago PD And, like...
Oh, the procedural extended universe is real.
It is real, yeah. NBC's actually doing it. They just need Chicago Med to make it complete.
Oh, God. So yeah, let's move on from that. Sunday, June 28th, Falling Skies coming back for its final season, finally. I kind of lost interest in the show after its second season. Do either of you watch this?
I haven't checked it out.
It's about aliens.
It was something like I was meaning to check out sometime, but never got around to it because.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It kind of suffers from that, the same weakness that a lot of the Steven Spielberg, produced stuff does, in that it's kind of going for the high concept and it's not really matching the high concept with the quality of the writing or the scenarios.
That's what I was wondering about, actually.
So it kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit weak to me. I lost interest, like I said, after like the second season or something. Started getting kind of dull for me. But yeah, it's back for anybody who watches it. Thought I should throw it on the list just because it's, it is hard science fiction.
Yeah.
Sure.
Definitely.
And it has Noah Wiley from ER. I'll always remember him fondly from ER.
Yeah.
It was definitely something that seemed interesting, but I was always wary of, if the quality was there to do the concept justice. Because I've seen other shows. It isn't
quite, yeah.
I've seen other shows with similar premise that completely drop the ball. And so when somebody comes out with that, I'm just wary of it, I mean, it's gotta be on point.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time they're just not. And it's so depressing every time.
Well, do either of you watch Teen Wolf? That's coming back on June 29th.
No.
So Teen Wolf is really funny because, of course, any child of the 80s is going to remember the Teen Wolf movie with Michael J. Fox.
I watched both of them like 100 times.
And so MTV decided, we're going to remake Teen Wolf as a serious horror series.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw the trailer for Teen Wolf when it was first announced or something, and I was just like, no. Just no. Never.
It's actually like there's times when it's fun to watch, kind of like in that way that you feel like you're watching like a Buffy ripoff that's not quite as good as Buffy, but it still has some of the the little fun themes that you like in Buffy, so you watch it. That's kind of how I feel about Teen Wolf at its best, I guess.
I guess it's similar to Buffy in that it took a goofy movie and made it serious, but the difference between this and Buffy is in Buffy's case, that movie was completely awful. And and so they took an awful movie and made it better. This just...
Oh, come on, that death scene, Pee Wee Herman's death scene in the Buffy movie is so great.
Oh, yeah, right. That's one of the most... But this took a classic, an American iconic classic film and just made it edgy for no reason.
Hey. Parkour werewolf?
Yeah.
Are you saying you have a problem with parkour werewolves?
Yes. Parkour werewolves shouldn't exist.
Why not? Didn't Colton Haynes used to be on Teen Wolf before he was on Arrow?
That's what I heard, yeah.
Yes, he was.
That's literally all I know about it is Colton Haynes came to it from Arrow.
It's actually funny.
Arrow, I know about it.
It was actually funny when I saw him on Arrow because I had seen him on Teen Wolf before, and on Teen Wolf he's this rich snotty bastard, and then when he's introduced first on Arrow he's this poor kid that hates all the rich people. He's like, you rich snotty bastards. And I'm
well, it's on
who you just played.
On Teen Wolf he's a rich snotty bastard, and on Arrow he is a poor snotty bastard. Who thinks he can fight crime?
He's got the snotty bastard market corner.
Yes.
Oh man. So the next day, MTV is going to remake or ruin, however you see it, another famous cult classic movie.
Probably
this time Scream.
Probably ruin. I'm not gonna make any secret that those movies are a guilty pleasure of mine, but I don't see any way of this TV series working.
It's funny because in the actual trailer for the show,
they specifically reference that a slasher film couldn't work as a TV show.
Yeah, they say it. It's like it's somewhere. And I'm like, thanks for saying that because, yeah, it's not going to work.
Kat, you back with us?
Yeah, sorry. My internet hates me.
It's okay. I'm just glad you're back. I wasn't sure. So, do you have any interest in Scream, the TV show?
No.
Oh, come on. MTV remake. Horror. Isn't that kind of hitting all your...
Well,
yeah.
Maybe.
You've got me pegged.
maybe it could be good.
It could be. I don't know. I don't have high hopes for
The
it.
premise of Scream is that there's a serial killer killing teens, and it's very self-referential, and by the end of it, you find out who the killer is, and the killer is stopped, and that's the end of the movie. How is that a TV show? I don't know. I mean, unless you're gonna have like 2 teenagers killed every episode or something.
Yeah. It's gonna be hard to pull off. I mean,
it's very hard to pull. I mean, has to be entire episodes where nothing happens except they're trying to figure out who the killer is or something. And I'm just
well, they're definitely trying to pair it next to Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
Because they're definitely trying to get that kind of thing. I'm kind of surprised that they're actually premiering it the next night and they're not just straight putting them neck back to back because it seems like what they're going for. They got that kind of teen horror thing going with Teen Wolf, and now they're going to try to expand it with Scream.
Definitely. And, Scream as a property makes sense for them to go after because it is like, a very teen-oriented horror property. It's just that the premise doesn't work beyond 2 hours, I just don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, how far can you really stretch this out?
Yeah. It's funny because they even, like I said, I think you missed it, Kat, when your call dropped out, but you were saying in the actual trailer for the show, they referenced there was a character in the trailer that said, you can't make a slasher film into a TV show.
Yeah, they say, I mean, so obviously they're still going for that self-referential humor that this franchise is known for,
but even if they're going for that, it seems like they're highlighting their own problems. So it'll be interesting to see if they can overcome that or not, and how they do it. So I'll definitely I'm interested in just that.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean,
more so than the show.
At least the writers are aware of that.
Yeah,
but yeah.
They're aware there's a problem.
Yeah, I know. Whether how they fix it or whether or not they take steps to fix it, that's the thing that remains to be seen.
So on the same night, we have a new show coming to CBS. This is Zoo, based on a book by James Patterson. Any James Patterson fans here?
No.
No.
Not me either. So
I only read science fiction and fantasy, so.
So this is a story about a global phenomena where animals start violently attacking humans. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the trailer looked really lame.
It seems like the kind of stuff that CBS is going for in their summer shows. They did like Under the Dome and, these other ones where these kind of like high concept kind of ideas that aren't necessarily the best ideas.
It's like,
let's stretch out pretty poorly.
CBS continues to reinforce all the reasons why I have yet in my entire lifetime to watch a show on their network.
There is a very good show on CBS right now, which is Person of Interest.
Person of Interest,
and it's kind of shocking.
True. And Good Wife is supposed to be good.
And
and hey, that's where Star Trek came from.
Did you see the...
It's true, but there's no way I would not want to see Star Trek on CBS.
No. Did you see the trailer for Supergirl?
Oh, of course.
Yes.
We'll talk about that next
week. Oh,
week.
yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah, that and Legends of Tomorrow. I would love to discuss both of those.
Oh, my God, I'm
seriously
dying to talk about that.
Of Tomorrow! Every time we say it.
Definitely.
You know what? I don't care that the title is cheesy. That trailer is awesome.
That trailer was awesome. Okay.
I like saying it like that. I like the cheesiness of the title.
Also, apparently, like, the lead guy in that, Rip Hunter, is like, was a character on Doctor Who.
Comic book name. Such a comic book name.
He's Rory from Doctor Who. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't resist. if this show is going to have Rory Williams as a time-traveling Brit, I really think they need to get John Barrowman and Alex Kingston over to visit him somehow.
Well, of course, John Barrowman is Malcolm Merlin, so it'd be easy to have him show up.
And we'll have more about that later, too.
Yeah.
Without getting the spoilers.
Okay, we're...
Like I said, we could hijack this.
So yeah, at least it's not the MCU this time.
I'm sorry.
We'll,
Zoo
So we'll
was
move
so
on.
boring, we started talking about other things.
so,
That's pretty bad.
moving on here is, Sunday, July 12th, Masters of Sex returns. Do either of you watch that?
No, it's not interesting to me, and I don't have Showtime anyway.
Okay, let's just
Yeah.
keep going on then.
I think you skipped over
There's-
Humans.
Oh, I did?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I did. Oops. June, we don't have a specific date for it yet. Humans is coming to AMC. This is based on a Swedish series called Real Humans. And this is actually a British series that we're getting brought over here. So it's the American release of a British adaptation of a Swedish series.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
And it is about synthetic humans.
it looks
Um,
interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It looks like one of those kind of like slower, kind of meditative takes on artificial intelligence.
Right.
You know, like there's going to be a thriller aspect to it, but it's not an action story.
Right.
It's going to be more like about kind of the, you know, the repercussions of doing that. I'm sure they're going to go into sexuality with robots and stuff because you can already see like the synths are rather attractive, and
Yeah.
so you kind of can see where it's going with certain things, and it's territory that's been crossed before, but if they do it the right way, if they do it in a good kind of meditative way that really kind of makes you think about it, it could be entertaining.
It definitely can. So that does have a lot of potential. So we'll just have to see when that comes out.
So, moving on, Thursday, July 16th, Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll.
And
Coming to FX. Now, this is, Dennis Leary returning. Seems to be kind of a dramedy, maybe kind of in the line of Louis, where it's mostly a comedy, but it has some dramatic moments. It's about an aging rock star who, basically caused his band to self-destruct 25 years ago. Never kind of became the legend that he always wanted to be. They made one album and then immediately broke up.
yeah.
Basically because he was sleeping with the wives and girlfriends and fiancés of everybody else in his band. And it's kind of about, you know, an aging kind of never was rock star guy. Is there any interest here?
Yeah, I'm not a big Dennis Leary fan, so
I'm definitely gonna check it out. I don't have a lot of high hopes for it.
right.
I think if they do it right, it could be really funny. I don't have a lot of hope that they'll do it right, but I'm gonna check it out. So, yeah, let's move on then from that. Friday, July 17th, Wet Hot American Summer. I have not seen the movie for this. It's one of my great shames. I keep hearing amazing things about the movie. It's got the cast of the movie is just amazing. It's, you know, Amy Poehler and Ken Marino and Bradley Cooper and just so many people that, like, before they were big.
Yeah, it's got an impressive cast in this.
Seriously.
Again,
And I've heard many great things. I know people absolutely adore the movie.
I haven't seen the movie. If it's funny, I'll watch it. I mean, I'm always down for a good comedy. I love comedies, so if it's funny, I'll watch it. But I haven't seen the movie. I know nothing about it outside of like its impressive cast. So it's not something like I'm excited for.
I'm going to see the movie first, and that's kind of my goal. I'm waiting for the right opportunity, and I'm going to watch the movie before the series comes out, and that'll kind of determine whether or not I watch the series. I've heard nothing but great things about the movie. It's supposed to be a great cult classic comedy, so it's one of those things I'm just going to have to see, and I've always put off watching, and I'm going to have to make sure I do it before July 17th.
Right, definitely.
So do you have any interest, Kat?
Nah. I think my problem is I have so much on my plate at this point that there are all these peripheral shows that, like, maybe somewhere down the line I would try them, but right now I tend to be prioritizing more genre-driven fare. So
speaking of a show you probably aren't gonna watch,
and that's okay.
On Sunday, July 19th, Welcome to Sweden hits its second season. I don't know if either of you watched this. It's a good comedy. It's actually a Swedish comedy that came over to America. It stars Greg Poehler, who is Amy Poehler's real-life brother, playing an American living in Sweden with his girlfriend and her family, and just kind of the weird culture clash of being an American in Sweden. And it's pretty funny. It's actually got a lot of great guest appearances in it. Amy Poehler's in it. She doesn't play his sister. She plays herself, Amy Poehler, but he's not Greg Poehler in it or whatever. He's like her financial manager or something.
Okay, weird.
That's weird.
Yeah.
But it also has God, I can't think of the actress's name. April from Parks and Rec is also in it.
Oh gosh. Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah, Aubrey Plaza's in it. It's got some other ones I'm just not recalling right now. Some other fairly big name, kind of funny people are in it, so they make little cameos here and there. It's a pretty funny show if you like that kind of awkward culture clash kind of thing. You might like it from the kind of like the Office perspective of that kind of awkward humor, you know?
Uh-huh.
Is it kind of an offshoot of that brand of humor like Office and Parks and Rec?
It's not done in that faux documentary style.
Well, sure, but I mean like in the general... Cause I prefer, any kind of single camera sitcom to the 4-camera sitcom.
Oh, it's a single camera. Yeah.
So if it's more in that vein, it's more likely to appeal to me.
Yeah, it's a single camera. It's pretty funny. It's like I said, it's all about those kind of weird social situations between, you know, being an American and being in a foreign area where they have different values and different ideas of things. So it's a pretty funny show. It's based on Greg Poehler's real life experiences living in Sweden. So it's a pretty good show. On that same day, that same night, Tut premieres on Spike. Spike's interesting because they're starting to get into original scripted content now. And they really weren't into that before. Before it was always like, you know, 1,000 Ways to Die and like, you know, Real Warriors and all these kind of like faux documentary kind of things where they'd go into, you know, like, check out this badass sword cutting through a pig or something.
Yeah.
And now they're starting to get into scripted content. I first noticed that they were doing this when they, picked up the pilot order for a show called Dark Web that's about, well, the dark web. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. Like,
I know what the dark web is, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a drama about that. And it's a series that was put together by, God, I'm just having brain farts left and right there. Yeah, I can't even think of it. It's gone from my head. But it's an interesting kind of concept show that you would have never expected on like Spike. But this seems to be kind of a new direction they're trying to take their content in, and Tut seems to be kind of like their first step in this direction. It's a mini series, it's not a full series, and it's about King Tut, and it stars Sir Ben Kingsley, not as King Tut, but as King Tut's advisor. And it seems like they're going for a kind of Game of Thrones-esque kind of political intrigue idea of like all these kind of a den of liars kind of thing, you know? Any interest?
Not really.
Nah.
Let's move on then. Friday, July 31st, Strike Back comes back for its final season. Have either of you watched Strike Back?
I have not. I don't have Cinemax.
I haven't even heard of it.
Strike Back
Your description of 24 meets Call of Duty says a lot.
It's like, but it's more fun. It's like the characters are clearly having fun even when they're in bad situations.
It's supposed to be like, from what I understand, it's supposed to be like, basically like a really, you know, extreme, like 80s action style film, you know? Like,
yeah.
Like,
it's actually kind of similar. Like the closest thing to it on TV might be like the current version of Hawaii Five-0 or something. And that it's like two characters and they're kind of wisecracking, but they're actually like getting involved in like serious military kind of affairs and cheatings and stuff.
Right.
It kind of has that kind of vibe to it. Of course, with, you know, it's Cinemax, lots of gratuitous sex. as well. It just kind of seems like random and completely out of place.
Right.
So you'd love it, Kat.
Oh yeah, that's right up her alley. That's for sure.
It can be a fun show to watch at times, just because of the kind of the heavy action and the fact that it's got dark stuff happening, but like the main characters' perspectives are rather light for the most part.
I mean, I don't know. I'll check it out sometime. I mean, I like action, you know, especially when it doesn't take itself like too seriously. So I mean, I like those cheesy 80s action movies, like especially like anything with Arnold Schwarzenegger, where he's like giving like those goofy lines. You know, I think the most entertaining part of Batman and Robin for me was Arnold Schwarzenegger just doing everything with some corny pun, and you know.
So you liked Batman and Robin? Okay.
No, I did not like that movie.
I have to move on with this list here. We're getting close here. So, in July, with no specific date, Rectify is coming back for its third season. I don't think either of you have seen this. This is actually a very good show. It's a very slow, meditative journey of this character that was in prison for 20 years, most of his life. He was imprisoned at a young age, for the murder of his girlfriend, rape and murder of his girlfriend, that you kind of never know through the series if he did or didn't do it. It seems to imply strongly that he didn't. But the real focus of the show is less about that, and it's more about just, he's in this small town, and this is where the crime happened, it's where he came from, it's where the girl's from. Everybody knows about the crime, everybody knows who he is, and it's inescapable. He can't get away from it, and there's a lot of just prejudice against him, or like awkward feelings from certain people. There's a lot of kind of political maneuvering from like, the people that were involved in his original prosecution, that they're less concerned of whether he really did it or not, and more in like how it looks to them if they wrongly accused him. And so they want him back in jail just for that reason, you know, more than anything else. And it's just a really good, slow, meditative show about those kind of aspects, and also just the idea of somebody that's been in prison for most of their life on death row, expecting at any moment that they're going to have their execution, and now they're out and they're free, and how the psychological effect that has on somebody.
Right.
That sounds really depressing.
It does.
It can be, but it's very good. It's very poetic. It's very interesting. Very well written. It's a good show. It's one of those shows that like nobody watches, but more people should. You know, it doesn't get as much critical reception as it should, just because the critics haven't watched it. But if they did, then the critics that have watched it love it, but most of them haven't. So yeah, it's a good show. August 5th, on Wednesday, Mr. Robinson. I was sad watching this trailer. This is a Craig Robinson series, to find out that it looks like this is a multicam sitcom with an audience.
Oh, no.
Why is NBC going back in that direction?
Really?
It's really depressing.
Why are they doing a multicam with an actor who really got his start on The Office, which was a single cam comedy? And I think,
yeah,
I just don't know.
It looks like it's going to be serviceably funny. I'm just kind of depressed over that aspect of it.
Craig Robinson, but the thing about it is, I've liked a lot of comedians, and then they do a sitcom, and their sitcom isn't funny. And some of the funniest people in the world have had sitcoms and not be funny. And I'm like, so, I mean, that doesn't really sell me on a sitcom anymore. It's like, okay, if you're funny, then that's cool. If you're not, then why bother? So
let's move on then here. Speaking of slicing off penises, oh wait, nobody said anything about that. On Sunday, August 23rd is Vicious on PBS. This is a British comedy. It's actually a really funny show, but it's weird watching Ewan Rowan is in the show.
Am I going to be able to watch Ramsay Bolton in a sitcom?
Who's famous on Game of Thrones for playing the character of Ramsay Bolton, who cut off Theon's penis. Yes. In the show.
then
very creepy character.
Tease them about that, with the sausage.
This show stars Sir Ian McKellen, and I made a joke later in this article because both Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart have shows in our lineup.
Why are they not together? Come on.
I know, right?
But this is about Ian McKellen as he's a elderly gay actor whose career never really took off that well, but he takes great pride and thinks of himself as a master thespian, even though his career never went too far, and he has his partner that he's, been with for so many years, and it's just these older kind of old friends, and then they get this young neighbor, and he kind of gets involved in their group, and they're just kind of like vicious towards each other, but like in a really funny way. They're just kind of snapping at each other a lot, but you can tell they really care about each other.
More interesting if he was playing Ramsay Bolton in this show.
It's actually a really funny show. It's a really quick kind of, silly comedy. It's pretty good. But yeah, we'll move on from that though. Now we're getting kind of into the general territory, summer 2015, without any official dates. So, first on this list here, we have the best titled show of all time.
Oh, the genius that went into making that title.
Fear the Walking Dead. So, this is the Walking Dead spinoff. We know it takes place in Los Angeles. We know it focuses on entirely new characters.
Yes, with that, I don't know. I actually don't know what show this is related to.
So this.
Oh my gosh!
looks.
I thought Tyson, in your top 10 article of comic book properties, you so perfectly laid out a lot of what's wrong with The Walking Dead. So my response to hearing there's going to be another one is just generally more of a.
Oh, okay, you're gonna watch this. I'm gonna watch this. But
I'm gonna watch it, but I'm watching it knowing that there's probably gonna be aspects I like and a lot of problems I'm gonna have with it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm wondering. Well, a lot of the big thing of The Walking Dead is, I'm invested in the characters of that, so I'm watching that with the investment I have in the characters. So a big thing for this is, are the characters going to be as interesting? Am I going to get as invested in these people as I am in Rick Grimes and, and what they're going through on the main show? Because if the characters are dull or not interesting, then the show isn't going to work no matter what they do.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky to watch. What I'm interested in is if it's going to have the kind of success that The Walking Dead did, or if The Walking Dead is like the saturation point for zombie stories now, right, in which people are just going to be like, oh, no, I already got The Walking Dead, I don't need this.
Right, that's going to be interesting. How big of a hit is this going to be? I mean, this has some big expectations attached to it because it's a spin-off of the biggest cable success story of the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's, what?
Pretty much of all time, I think.
Yeah, probably all time. I was reading an interview with Robert Kirkman about this. Apparently it takes place during, the early days of the zombie plague, the beginning of it. He says, he says these characters will go through the decline of society that Rick slept through. And also, apparently, another big thing about this is going to focus on a largely dysfunctional family. It's going to be about family, but they were, completely dysfunctional up to when this happens. I think that's the only new tidbits that I got out of that interview.
It could be interesting. I'm definitely going to watch it just because I watched The Walking Dead and might as well. But I'm not looking forward to it. I'm going to watch it, but I'm not looking forward to it.
That's the same.
Next up, also in summer 2015, we have Blunt Talk, which is the Patrick Stewart show, the new Patrick Stewart show we have coming up. What do you think about this show, Blunt Talk?
I wanted it to be funnier than what the trailer was. I was like, I love Patrick Stewart. I think Patrick Stewart can do great comedy when given a chance. This just didn't look that funny, though.
Yeah.
Maybe it just needs time to grow into it, because I don't think Patrick Stewart has had much opportunity to do comedy on a wider scale. Like I think in general his career has been a lot more dramatic based. So,
well, he's done a lot in voice work now. He's in American Dad, and he plays like Stan's boss in American Dad, and he's pretty central. He's on the show a lot in a comedy role, so he's done that a lot.
He's done that a lot. He had
in voice
appearance
work
on Extras, which he was hilarious in.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've seen Patrick Stewart do comedy, and so he can be hilarious when he wants to be.
Some shows just can't sell you on a trailer anyway. Sometimes you just have to take in the actual show to really get it. So
definitely,
I'll be hopeful for it. I'm definitely going to watch it. It's kind of a funny concept. I don't know where it's how good it's gonna be as it goes on.
Like I said, I'll watch it. I love Patrick Stewart, so I'll watch it.
Yeah, me too.
Let's move on.
Who doesn't love Patrick Stewart?
I know. You can't hate him. It's impossible.
Let's move on to the last show on our list, Kat's favorite, the one she's really looking forward to. I don't know if you guys have seen the first season of this or not.
I'm just reading this now and learning this is a vampire story, which I thought this was.
It's a vampire, but it's not like a Sparkles in the Sun vampire.
Oh, that's good. Those are the worst kinds.
If it was, would it even be worth talking about?
Yeah, I know, right? No.
This is more like Vampire Story in the way like...
I thought this was...
Well, it's Guillermo del Toro, right. So it really has that kind of Blade 2 vampire style
okay.
to it.
So it's really cool, is what you're saying.
Grotesque monsters, yeah.
Yes.
You know, very gross out, yeah. The first season's already, aired. It's got some issues here and there. In general, I like the story arc, though, and what's going for. It's a straight-up apocalyptic vampire show.
Oh,
like
cool.
it's stuff is going down very badly.
See, I was under the impression that this was about a virus, and so like kind of like Outbreak. I did not know there was a vampire element to it.
It's not a virus. I think at one point it was being covered up as a virus.
Oh, okay.
It's not. It's a very old monstrous vampire with worms that come out of him that bed themselves in people.
This. You just sold me on this show.
It's very monstrous, and it's per take on vampires. It's a Guillermo del Toro based story. So it's from Carlton Cuse, from Lost, and Bates Motel is his best work.
Oh, Carlton Cuse is behind Bates Motel? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
He's involved in that. I don't know how involved he is in all these TV projects he's doing, because he's doing so many.
Yeah,
right?
That I just don't know how involved he actually is in the day-to-day operations now, but he's involved in this as well. And yeah, the first season had its issues, but it's a fun horror action, or not really action, horror series kinda, So it's watchable. It's a good show.
Okay.
It looks way too grotesque for me.
Yeah, I knew that was my joke right at the beginning. I knew right away this is not a cat show.
There's the promotional material that they put on the cover, and every time I see it, I just go, wow,
with the eyeball.
You can tell Kat is not a big horror fan.
Yeah.
Not even in the slightest.
You mean like you're talking about the worm thing with the eyeball?
Yes.
Yeah. That actually caught so much outrage when that came up. People were freaking out about that, I don't want my kids to see that, because there were billboards of it and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was raised from birth on that kind of thing, so I was like, I was watching Nightmare on Elm Street when I was 6. I mean,
yeah. Horror films were more accepted for younger people back then for some reason.
Yeah,
they were still R-rated, but they were
still R-rated.
Accepted.
They had video games. You could buy Friday the 13th.
Oh yeah, the video games
Nintendo.
are so much worse now for it. Yeah.
You could buy Friday the 13th for your Nintendo, and by rights, no kid should have been watching Friday the 13th. So why make a Nintendo game about it?
My mom is a second grade teacher. One time she brought home her kids had to write what they wanted for Christmas and stuff. And now you get a lot of people on there in their list. It's like Call of Duty. It's like, wait, these are second graders? But
the first time it really got me where I was like, oh, what the hell are these kids into now? Was the Scarface video game.
Scarface video game.
Oh.
And it was on the list. This is like, a second grader. A second grader.
Interesting.
That's a really strange movie to turn into a video game.
It really is. So they had Platoon as a video game on the NES. I thought that was bizarre as hell.
But this was like, the Scarface game is super violent, just like the movie, you know, and it's about a drug dealer and stuff as the main character. And so it was kind of shocking, seeing that on the list. My mom was like, what is this? Scarface? Do you know what this is? And I'm like, you don't know what Scarface is? And she's like, no. And I'm like, well, I'll tell you one thing. It should not be on any of your kids' list of things you want to be getting for Christmas. I mean,
at least when Scarface came out, it had an M rating, and it was like being sold to adults. Like, kinda. But like, when you got like games in the 80s, like Friday the 13th or Platoon for some reason, those games were expressly being sold to kids. Like, there was no M rating, there was no understanding that games could be made for adults or an adult audience. It was like, these things were toys for children. And so it was like especially bizarre.
Oh yeah, I remember, like all the children's Halloween costumes of Freddy and Jason in the 80s.
I remember too.
I had one. I had the Freddy costume when I was a kid.
I wanted a Freddy costume when I was a kid.
It's like, yeah, I want to play a horribly scarred, burned child murderer who invades people's dreams and slaughters them.
Yeah, exactly. Totally cool.
That's what I want to be for Halloween. So that pretty much brings that to an end. That's our spring preview. If there are any shows on this list that you guys are really interested in, could you name them? Like, Kat, could you name like one or two that you're really interested in on this list?
The two that I'd probably go for the most are the sci-fi ones about the amnesiacs and the bounty hunters.
So you're in a sci-fi mood, an SYFY mood.
Yeah. I'm always up for anyone who's willing to do something outer space.
Well,
probably Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, Killjoys, definitely, and now The Strain. So those were like yes.
You got a whole season of that to look forward to.
I know, it sounds so good now that I know it's not like some outbreak virus thing, which is what I thought initially.
So, yeah, I mean, for me, of the new shows, yeah, I'm both of the sci-fi shows that, Kat mentioned, Killjoys and Dark Matter, look really good to me. I'm excited about Mr. Robot. I'm kind of nervous. I don't know how it's gonna be handled, but it looks from the way the trailer presents it like they're doing it kind of right, so I'm hopeful about that. I might have impressions for that like next week.
Oh, cool.
So.
Look forward to that.
Then Scream, of course. No.
Oh, yes, definitely.
No. Yeah, those are kind of, I think, the main ones of the new ones I'm looking forward to. Of course, everything on this list, the one I'm most looking forward to is Hannibal returning.
Hannibal is, that's the king of this list. Definitely. That show is just operating on another level. I never expected the show to be this good.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking, and it got so much better with its second season too.
Yeah, it did. So I mean,
it was already really good. It's not like the first season was okay and the second season was really good. It's like the first season was pushing the boundaries of what you thought could be good on network, and the second season shattered them.
The second season shattered them, and I want to say, if anything, Hannibal can only go down from here. But then I watched the trailer, and it's like, it's just the trailer. It seems like it's still running on that high level. Like, it's like, seriously, this cannot continue to be this good.
It should be illegal.
It should be illegal.
Well, that's...
Yeah, I think you two need a separate podcast.
I think so, too.
Yeah, I think we'll do something like we're doing with Game of Thrones right now. We'll end up doing for Hannibal, just because there's too much good to talk about with that show.
And I'm just going to say right here and right now, I don't think it would be a bad idea for us to do another podcast that maybe could be devoted to the DC TV verse, since we clearly have as many feelings to express about that as we do the
definitely.
MCU.
I am so down for that because I have so much to say about the DC TV universe. Because I think now I love that just as deeply as I love the MCU.
Me too, right?
I think,
right? Yeah.
I think that's going to be something we'll talk about next week with the new series pickups, because we're going to be talking about both Legends of Tomorrow and Supergirl.
Woohoo!
And
I hope Supergirl is actually part of the DC TVU. There's been no strong confirmation. There's been like hints.
I think that depends on CBS. They said going in that for now they want to keep Supergirl to themselves, but I think that's kind of like leaving for the possibility that at some point in the future she could cross over.
Okay, guys, save this for next week. We are going to be talking about this next week.
Okay, yes.
And then we'll talk about at that time next week. We'll try to figure out, maybe we'll do something like we just did for the MCU. We'll do like some kind of an irregular like thing where every so often we'll just do something talking about DCTVU, I guess.
That sounds great.
You can't really call it the DC Cinematic Universe because that universe is like not related to TV at all.
No.
I know. Well, that's okay. The TV universe likes to be better than the cinematic universe.
Yeah.
So far, yes. Definitely.
So we'll definitely be talking about that a lot next week. I'm sure that'll probably take up at least half of the podcast for those two shows.
Yeah. I know. It'll be the Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow podcast.
Legends of Tomorrow!
Plus these other shows that happen to be coming out.
Yeah. These other like 40 shows, yeah. Alright, well, I'm gonna call an end to this podcast then for tonight. So everybody who listened, thank you for listening. You can visit us at TVEnthusiast.com. You can check out our back podcast. We only have on our actual main podcast feed, we only have like 2 or 3 episodes at a time. There's a storage limitation, but all of the episodes can be found on YouTube, along with our other video coverage we've done, the Game of Thrones coverage that Will and I have done, where we've covered every episode so far of season 5 of Game of Thrones. We did an MCU chat with Kat and Will and I all did one together. And we're going to be doing some more of those, hopefully also with Ed from Film Enthusiast, who used to write for TV Enthusiast and was involved in our roundtables before they were a podcast. You can also find on the YouTube channel our Better Call Saul podcast thing we did as a kind of a special. And we might do some more things like that in the future. It looks like we're probably going to be doing a DC Universe podcast or video of some sort type thing, maybe like we did with the MCU. So yeah, keep in touch with us through those means, through our website, TVEnthusiast.com, our YouTube channel, any of our social streams, leave us comments, anything. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset@TVEnthusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and the Weekly Set podcast for more coverage